Welcome to the Threefold Real Estate Investing Podcast. This is the podcast where you'll not only learn how you can achieve massive success in multifamily real estate investing, but also how you can simultaneously pursue great relationships with your family and a better walk with God. You can achieve financial freedom through real estate investing without sacrificing the relationships that mean the most to you. Now, here's your host, Lee Yoder.
Welcome back, Threefold listeners. I hope you're having a great week this week and enjoying your summer. We've got an awesome episode for you today because my beautiful wife is joining me today. I wanted to share our recent purchase. Most of you know, I think probably, that we purchased a 64 unit. It was actually a 48 unit and a 16 unit, but we're going to get into all that. And I wanted to share kind of that with you and how that came to be and all the details. And hopefully like you learn something from it and maybe learn how to put one of these together yourself or what you should look for, all those kind of things. So to do that, I brought Hannah on. So I'm going to have her kind of interview me.
Something like that.
Yeah. So that's what Hannah's here for. So I'm, handing the mic over to her and let her ask some questions, and I'll kind of explain it to her as you all listen.
Yeah, excited to be here. Okay, so we'll just start from the beginning. 64 unit outside Dayton, Ohio. Just tell us where kind of the business was at this point, where you were at, where Threefold was at. Yeah, just kind of back up a bit.
Sure. We started syndicating back at the end of 2020 and got our first properties in 2021. So we bought 3 properties, 3 apartments in 2021, syndicated those. So a bunch of investors joined us on those. And then we bought one in May of 2022 and then went 12 months without buying anything. So that was a long stretch. So we got 4 apartment buildings, 283 units in, like a year and a half. And then went like 12 months without getting anything. Right. Interest rates, started shooting up in March. I think it was the first rate hike by the Fed in March of 2022. So just became harder and harder. We experienced that during the closing of the 95 unit we bought in May of 2022. And so we just couldn't get numbers to pencil. So, blessing in disguise, I think we really focused on the business and really dug in and made sure our operations were really tight. We, made some changes, made some additions, really worked on processes and procedures and people, which what everybody says it takes to run a successful business. So really felt like we shored things up, gave our investors a breather, I guess. Right. And then, we finally found one that we thought was really good, really great numbers, really great opportunity. And that's this one that we call North Dayton, the 64 unit.
Okay. So let's talk about how you found the deal. How did it come about? Brokers? What was the situation?
Yep. Yeah, we don't do like off-market mailing or anything like that. We just really work hard to have great relationship with the local brokers. We're just here in Southwest Ohio. Cincinnati and Dayton is where we buy properties for right now. We can go a little bit outside, and the brokers that we work with, we border Kentucky and Indiana, so they have properties there too that we look at. But we've got great relationships. We've only purchased 4. I mean, we got some smaller ones, so I guess altogether multifamily. This is now our 8th purchase. So we've done some and we're actually selling a couple. And so we've got a good reputation, I think, with the brokers. And so we just try to be on their short list. So when they have a property, they might, not want to do a full listing. They might just send it out to a couple of people like us.
Right.
And then we can make an offer and not have so much competition.
Right.
And that's how this one came about. Kind of, I guess the broker of the 48 unit, we bought a 10 unit off of him back in 2019.
Yep.
And so we know him from that. And so he kind of told us about this one and we were interested pretty early on, and he told a few other people about it. And then 16 unit, kind of a random broker out of Michigan, found my name and number because we've bought properties near this one that he had. And we got excited about that one. And because it was so close to the 48 unit. So we wouldn't normally want to go after a 16 unit. It's a little small for us, but it was so close to the 48. We thought, okay, well, we're not just purchasing a 16 unit. It's really going to be part of a 64 unit that we do together.
Right. So initially, what did you like about these properties? What made them unique? I mean, they're two different properties in a sense, but what attracted you to them?
It starts with location. So, we just like Southwest Ohio. We like Ohio in general, and we're right here. We're local. So Cincinnati and Dayton, it's in our market. They're a little bit outside of Dayton. They're, northwest. They're up by the airport in Dayton. And it's a good area. It's a little more rural. It's not, downtown, but I like that about it. Yeah. It's kind of like quiet little towns. But I mean, you're right there close to the airport, 10, 15 minutes from the airport, and then you're close to plenty of jobs. So just really like the location. The buildings, one was built 1970, 1971, 72. So a little bit older than I love, but the other one's 1989. And so I love that age, but they're all brick on slabs, baseboard heat, slope shingle roofs.
No basement.
No basements. Yeah, just like, man, we can maintain these really well over like decades if we wanted to. So really like the structures and like the location.
Okay. Let's talk about how you won the deal.
Yeah. So those two brokers got a hold of me. Like I said, the one at the 48, I know him well, know him very well. I've looked at, only bought one with him as a broker, but looked at a lot and have a good relationship. And so there was another one or two parties interested. We end up being pretty close, but the other party just wasn't quite as willing to kind of work with the seller on some things he wanted, because the seller, I mean, this was good for us, but he actually wanted seller financing,
right?
Which he offered us really good terms, better than a bank would, and better interest rate than the bank would. So we love that. But he also wanted us to be a little bit flexible with his timeline and some other things. I won't get into all that, but like, just, yeah, he had some interesting things that he wanted to accomplish in the ways he wanted to set it up. And we were just agreeable to those things. And so he liked us better as buyers. And so that's kind of what got us that one. So the relationship on the front end, then just being agreeable to the seller and working with him on some things, because he was working with us. I mean, it wasn't all give. We were taking a lot too. And then the other one, actually we ended up not being the highest buyer, highest bidder. We were, just $1,065,000 what we ended up purchasing it for. And so the other offer was significantly higher than ours, about over $100,000 more than our offer. But the seller really wanted the assurity of closing. It was a family situation. I won't give away all the details there. It's kind of personal to that family, but they wanted to make sure they sold. So we really got the broker to believe in us as buyers. Right. For a 16 unit for us, we've, purchased some 40 plus units. We purchased a 95 and 96 unit. So there was a track record there to show that we can definitely close on a 16 unit. And so he just felt really good about us and awarded it to us, even though we were, six figures less on our offer price.
Okay. How much did you have to raise capital wise, and how did you structure that with your limited investors?
We were all in for just over $4.5 million on this. We wanted to raise 1.6 million. So a big chunk of that was and about $1 million was for the down payment, but then about 600,000 of that was for rehab costs. So we decided not to finance any of the CapEx projects and the unit renovations, which is part of our CapEx, but we wanted to just raise that money. So we got pretty good leverage. We got 85% leverage on the 48 unit, just 75 on the 16 unit, but pretty high leverage. And so the way we kind of decided to kind of decrease our overall leverage is to just raise all the CapEx ourselves. And then also it's much easier when the money's just yours and it's not the bank's, and you can just spend it as you please and not have to fill out all this stuff for the bank and just keep your own record. So we liked that. So we raised 1.6 million from our investors.
Okay. And when it came to the lending, you mentioned seller financing. So the 48 unit was seller financed, and the 16 unit, you went with a traditional bank loan.
Yes.
So how did you couple that together? What was that process? This was your first time with seller financing. So how did that all work for you?
Yeah, I had to get comfortable with that, because that did make me nervous, and I want to make sure I could explain it well to our investors and make them comfortable with it. So the key there was just bringing in a title company and attorneys that we really trusted. So I was on the phone with them like, help me feel comfortable about this. What is going on here? What protects us? And he, I won't get into the details here, but he kind of gave me an educational class on that and really made me feel comfortable, which I was able to pass along to our investors. And actually, his words were like, Lee, you're definitely more protected than the seller is. Like, actually, seller financing is more risky for the seller. So, but a lot goes in that. So we felt good about that with having, it's the title company we like the most in Cincinnati that we've closed the most deals with. And then they have attorneys that we paid to, do all that kind of work. So really felt comfortable to seller financing because of that. And again, he was giving us good terms. So we felt great with his terms and his interest rate. Just for some numbers on with the bank, we got a 6.5% interest rate, right, for, fixed for 5 years. The seller financing, he gave us 6% year one, and then 5% year 2 and 3. And then wants us to refinance after 3 years. So, the bank, was more difficult. So it was two separate deals. So, the bank like knew about the other one, but it didn't like concern them. They weren't involved in that at all. So the bank was just getting the 16 unit, just financing for the 16 unit for us. Again, they gave us 75% leverage, fixed interest, 6.5% for 5 years, give us interest only for the first year. They did do a tiny little, actually rehab loan of just 15,000 just to do the parking lot, which we're about ready to get done. But, yeah, it was difficult to get that one. Banks have tightened up with interest rates being higher and maybe a recession coming, things like that. So it was actually tougher than we expected to get that loan.
Yep. Okay. As far as inspections go, back up the timeline a bit. How did that go? Anything surprise you? Anything throw you off a bit? Anything expected? Unexpected?
Yeah, it really went pretty well. We had a pretty good idea of some of the exteriors. We've been on both of these properties and toured them and looked in a unit or two on each property and then really looked around and stuff and had a good idea like this roof's old, this and that. The units we were pleasantly surprised with the units. We felt like they were being renovated pretty well. They were in pretty decent shape. That's a big thing because when you're planning on doing a value add strategy, you want to increase rent, but in order to do that, you're going to have to make the units look nicer. And so we just felt like there were good bones there and we could do that. One thing that the inspection uncovered on the 48 unit, the roofs were new, all but one roof. There's 6 buildings of 8 units and all but one was new, like within a year or two. And actually they weren't done well. So the inspector told us, hey, these were not done correctly. What they did was they put a layer of shingles over 2 other layers of shingles. And actually, even like by insurance code, you cannot do that. You can go over 1 layer, but you cannot go over 2 layers. By the time you get to 2, you need to rip them off and put on a new one. And they did not do that. And so we did have to go back to the seller and say, we're going to have to redo all these roofs. And we don't feel that we should have to pay for that because, when we got into this, you told us that the roofs were new. And they are, but they weren't done correctly. And we came to agreement on that. And we kind of split up how he's going to pay for that, but he is going to credit that to us. And so that could have been a deal breaker. But we were able to work it out. Again, I just feel like we were pretty agreeable with the seller, but he was too. I really like him and he was great with us. So the roofs with the 16 unit was kind of interesting because we saw those and go, okay, we're going to have to replace these. And they didn't claim that they were new by any means. So we knew we were going to have to replace them. But on the day before our inspection, a big windstorm came through and ripped off a bunch of shingles. They were all over the parking lot. And our inspector was like, I bet you're going to get this roof paid for by the seller's insurance company. And sure enough, that's what happened. Before we closed, we had 4 brand new roofs on all 4 of those buildings out of the 16 unit. So kind of lucky. Interesting stuff with the roofs on both of those.
So what's your vision for these properties as a whole? What's your overarching business plan?
Yeah, where the opportunity here is, again, talked about some of the financing and we felt like we got in at a really good price. We're in, you can do the math, but around 74,000 a unit. And these are all I didn't mention this. These are all 2-bed, 1.5 bath townhomes. So nice size units. We're going to be able to make them really nice and kind of get kind of that top of the market renter in these. But we got in for 74,000. Now, some people know what a 1% deal is where, okay, if you bought them for 74,000, then you're going to want to rent them for 740 a unit, or they should be renting for 740. They weren't. The average rent across these properties is 664. So extremely low, which again, so maybe we're overpaying a little bit by being at, 74,000 a unit. I still don't think so because of what we're getting, but the market is at least $950. So you're seeing, almost $300 in rent premiums across this portfolio. We love that. Now, again, you got to put money into the property to do that because the way the units are looking today, you're not going to rent them for $950. Now you still might rent them for $800 or $850, even the way they're looking today. But we want to get that $950. So we're going to put a lot of money into the units. That's the majority of the vision is to go in. We will start raising rent immediately on everybody that has a lease that's expired, and we'll send out lease renewals and with the rent bump because they're just way too low. And so we'll start raising rent, but not super aggressively. We want most people to stay, but as people do move out, then we'll go in and renovate the unit, and then we'll jump it up to $950 because they'll be moving into a really nice unit. On top of that, for the new people, but also for the current residents, you want to show them, hey, we're not just raising your rent, we're putting money into the property. And they don't care that you're renovating somebody else's unit. Right. What are you doing for me? We're going to redo the parking lots. We're going to put a lot of money there because they're pretty rough in some areas. So they will see that, and that will benefit them. Obviously the roofs, but they're not going to care that much about the roofs. And then just some painting, like exterior doors, shutters. We're just going to make the property look nice. And I think we're just going to take better care of the properties and make them look better, like just as far as landscaping, stuff like that.
Great. Yeah. So you mentioned that rents are currently very low there. How are you accounting for the fact that rents could very well flatline in the near future?
Yeah, like if we were to go into recession or
Right.
something. Yeah, that's my base case actually. So I think about that a lot. But with such a big rent premium, with such a big gap between where we feel like the market is today, which is $950 for these units, and the average is $664. If market rent stays at $950 for 3 years,
Right.
that's fine, because it's going to take us 3 years to be working people up to $950. So the majority of people are going to stay. We think, and that's actually played out that way already for sure, like almost too much. And so we've got plenty of room to keep working them up, because, if someone's $300 under, we're not raising the rent $300. Now we'll definitely do 50. We might do 75 on some. We might even go 100, but even if you do 3 $100 rent bumps, that just gets you up to 950 over the 3 years. So we've got so much room. And yeah, so we're really not anticipating that, 2 years from now we're bringing in new renters at 1,000 or 1,050. That is not what our underwriting says. We're able to just say, let's just keep bringing people in at 950. Now we bring someone in, which we've already done. We're bringing someone in at 950. Now they might get a $25 rent bump next year. So then they're at 975. So We're going to see some of that. Unless I guess if times go down, maybe we can't raise them to 975, but we're going to be okay. There's just so much room. That's what makes us feel like this is a great investment, even if we go into a recession.
Okay, great. One thing you have not mentioned yet is anything about property management. And anyone who has listened to your podcast knows that that is not something that you have any desire of delving into yourself. However, with this property, you have decided to manage this yourself. Explain that, and how's that transition been?
Yeah, Hannah, thanks for bringing that up and pointing out my hypocrisy. I have preached for years now that you shouldn't manage your own properties. I still do think it really was beneficial for us to not manage our own properties in the beginning when we didn't know anything and we were trying to scale pretty fast. A couple things. One, we know a lot more now. We've got a lot to learn on the property management side, and that's been obvious this first month and a half that we've been managing the property. But a few things went into it. So, with a 48 unit and a 16 unit, I mentioned they're a little bit more rural, so they're a little bit further out, and they're a little bit smaller than what our current property manager that we really like.
Right.
A little bit smaller than what they like to manage. They like to be closer to 100 units, and they'll do some smaller stuff. They're doing some smaller stuff for us, but that's harder. And it's especially harder when those smaller ones are a little bit further out. So, I like those guys because they're honest, and they, I had a meeting with them about these properties, and they said, we think we're going to be pretty expensive for these properties because they're smaller and a little further out. And I said, yeah, I thought you would be, but I appreciate you saying that. Just felt like, okay, maybe God is pushing us toward doing it ourselves. And we've, for a little bit, again, not for a long time, because I've just been preaching, don't do it. But for a little bit, I've been thinking maybe we know enough now, and maybe we're ready to bring it in. Maybe we could do it better, just because we're going to be so focused on our properties. Not that we're going to be better than this property management company that's managing 10 to 12,000 units. Not yet, but because we're just going to focus on it, maybe we can do it better. And I was pretty sure, I'm pretty confident we can do it cheaper. So, and then the one thing that was really unique, that felt like, again, maybe this was God just pushing us in this direction for our company, for Threefold, was the 48 unit came with a guy who lives on site and has been managing the property for a decade. And normally, and it's actually the seller's brother. And normally as soon as I heard that, I'm like, that's not going to work. It just, you don't want to see that. That's like so mom and pop, and we're, trying to be professional and probably get out of it. Like this, like that's not working. I know it's not working. I was definitely proven wrong. As we did the inspection, we could tell these units are being cared for. He's actually doing all the unit renovations, doing a great job. Frankly, better than some of the ones we've done on other properties with other crews. Like, he's just really good. He gets along well with the residents. We could tell there's not deferred maintenance. We were asking the residents that's one great thing you can find out during the inspection. Yeah. You can talk to the residents. Hey, anything going on in here? Any issues? And there were little stuff here and there. Oh yeah, this outlet doesn't work. Oh, right. Okay. Like, no, but not big stuff. And so we really came to realize, like, this guy is a big asset. Well, is our big property management company, big third-party property management company, going to take him on and manage him and fold him into their process? Maybe not. And also, like, why are we paying them to do that? Like, this guy's been managing himself with his brother, the seller, who lives in Florida half the year. Like,
Sure.
if they can do it, why can't we do it? So it just a lot of nudges, and we felt like now's the time. And so I'm going to eat crow or whatever you want to say, and just try it out.
Eat crow.
Yeah, it's a saying. Like, it's like eat your own words.
Okay.
Yep. It's the thing. All
right. And how's it going? How's that transition been? You've had it. We purchased this in end of May.
Yeah. So we've had a month and a half.
Okay.
It's really been good. It's been overwhelming, to be honest. Property management is a lot. And that's why, I guess, why I was preaching against it. Let somebody else do that. But man, it's been great. Our on-site guy has been awesome. He has been better than advertised, honestly, which that's huge. He's done so great. In the team, I mean, I'm really, I felt like our team, not just you're a huge part of that, but we have others that just more experience of, because they've kind of come along with us in the journey.
Yeah.
Like we were new to this, a handful of years ago, and a lot of people on our team are somewhat new to this, but now we're not so new. And everybody's done well. And I do think we're doing a really good job managing the property. The numbers are looking good. Occupancy is good. I feel like we're really on top of it. I feel like residents are pretty happy.
Yeah.
So far I am happy that we are managing ourselves.
Good. Okay. Wrapping up. What has surprised you most about having these properties? Good, bad, other? Yeah,
I think a good surprise is probably the thing I have to say is what I just said, that our on-site manager is really doing well. We've really enjoyed working with him. He seems to enjoy working with us. And I guess just that's even like, I hesitate to say this, but I think I've enjoyed that part of property management. I've enjoyed having the control, but also like the relationships of the management team. And we've had great relationships. I mean, you've gotten to know some of our on-site managers for the third party management. So we've been very close with them, but now that they're like, our employees and on our team, it's even just in the month and a half, it's become even more. And I have enjoyed that part. And it's been fun to really see that. And, you take pride in that when it's your thing. So that's been a good surprise. Right. And then maybe something that surprised me to the downside, probably the accounting, the bookkeeping, I'm just getting done for you. Yeah. It's like, our on-site guy, like he's, he pays a lot of the bills and he goes to Home Depot every day and gets stuff for maintenance and unit turns. But then somebody's got to put that into our property management software, and then someone's got to record it and then reconcile that with the bank account. And it's been, frankly, a nightmare sometimes learning this, but hired a lady from Upwork the other day that helped me work through it, and she was awesome. And so, but I don't know, I knew that was going to be a lot, but it's been even harder than I thought. But month and a half in, finally starting to get the hang of it, and it's not so bad once you get it. It's just some anytime you try to learn something new, it's no fun at first. That's it. Okay, thanks for how'd I do interviewing? Hosting. You were kind of tough. There was a couple things I could have done without, but listeners now get to understand how you've got this property after about a year, and how it all went down. That's a fun story. I appreciate you coming on, Hannah. Yeah, no problem. Great. All right, Threefold listeners, that's it for this week. Look forward to another great episode next week. Thanks.
Thank you for joining us for another great episode. I hope you'll take action on what you've learned today. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider leaving Lee a 5-star rating and review. And check him out on threefoldrei.com. Until next time, 1 Timothy 6:17.